Hey YouTube, today we're going to look at some traps. I've already actually done this video and made a couple mistakes, so this is round 2. I'm going to take a look at some leg hold traps here. These particular ones are Dukes. First thing you'll notice is that they're laminated and they have the base plates and swivels. They've been dyed, but you can see that they need to be dyed again and cleaned up. They're both waxed. This one here was waxed better than the other one because you can't really see in the camera. But if you look at this one, I didn't wait for it to get hot enough before I pulled it out of the wax. So you get big chunks like that. And that can cause you jams. And you might slip on your fingers. One thing to note too is you wax the leg holds, but you don't wax the conibears. And maybe this on YouTube, but I watched a lot of YouTube videos figuring I knew how I was gonna be a trapper. And then I got a mentor. No matter how many videos you watch or how much you think you know, get a mentor. I was going to wax my conibears, and for a trapper who's been doing it for a while, it's common sense. If you wax this conibear and you try to set that, that's going to be slippery, and getting your hand caught in one of these is not comfortable. Getting caught in one of these is very, very painful. So this is a Duke number 3. It's got the base plate on it. It's got your D-ring. It's got a swivel, and the swivels are welded closed. There's a swivel on this end as well, and a quick connect. This one is laminated top and bottom. I just used a 1/8 or 3/16 round stock, and the way I did it is I just bent it a little bit in my vise to get a rough shape, and then to weld it I put a piece of metal inside in between the teeth, and then that'll give you a spot to push it to the back, and you use your vice grips to clamp it down, and then you put a tack, and then you bring your vice grips up here, clamp it down a little bit further, give it a tack, and then what'll happen is on your far end it'll stick up like that, so you just bring it down with your vice grips, give it a little tack and finish it up. Same thing with the underside. Have your metal through, vice grips pull up instead of push down. Same thing. So that's double laminated. This is single laminated. Also on the ends, there's a tack on there. They're talking about mandating it so that you have to have these tacks and these laminations, so that, and the extra swivels, so that these don't pull out. There's less pressure on the animal with the laminations. It's all in the name of making it more humane. I'll show you why they're doing it this way. These have been night latched. So there's your double laminated. You notice all the surface area here. They're single laminated, not as much surface area. So instead of having a focal point where it's holding the animal, you'll have extra, and it's not so much of a smack, not so much sharp smack, more holding power. You know, there's lots of theories behind it, but this is the way the law is going our way. So these will be boiled to get the old wax off, and then they'll be re-dyed, and then they'll be waxed again. But if you don't get your metal hot, you're going to end up with these big gobs of wax, and that's just going to cause jam ups, and some people say it holds scents, but just being on your trap site, you're stinking the place up, so I don't know about the whole scent thing. These are the Conibears. There's a Duke 330. One thing I don't like about the Dukes is your safety clip. When you're trying to set this thing up, the safety clip is flipping and flopping all around. But if you look at a Belisle, Belisle has it so that they're tight. And they're not so tight that you can't move them easily. They move very easily, but they stay in place. So once you have it set, take that off, and then you don't have to worry about it. But with these ones, when you set your trap, so if you want to work around and try and figure out which way is the best way to put your trap, and you're trying to not paying attention, these aren't going to fire. Now, if you're only putting them the one way, then maybe you'll get away with it. But if you're gonna flip it over, you know, decide which way you're gonna go, or when you're carrying it, before you put it in the spot, you think you got it set up, and you don't. I've had these things fire off, didn't realize that had rehooked, and the animal got away. I don't know if that animal survived or not. I did look for it, but it's just something you really got to watch for, right? We don't want to be hurting animals for no reason. So one of the things that I've done, I've tried a million different ways to try and tighten these up without heating them, because I don't want to destroy my spring. If anybody comes up with an idea or knows something that I don't, I'm wide open to suggestion. Please let me know. I'd like to get those tighter. But in the meantime, what I do is I just take a piece of rabbit wire, and then when I set my trap, I have it like that. It stays out of the way. I don't have to worry about it. If I got to climb down a hill to put this in a stream, then I don't have to worry about it getting tangled. Some of the things you'll notice is a difference in these traps. the Belisle has these loops here. Part of that is to stop your spring eyelets from working their way around. On these Dukes, they seem to like to come up over there, especially on the 330s. They can be a real nightmare. What'll happen, it happens on its own, but it probably won't do it because I've got it on the video, is these things will switch like that. See, my hook's getting in the way of everything. So these will switch like that, and sometimes these will run up here, and it's a bit of a bear to get them back into place. It wasn't so bad that time, but sometimes they'll really get tangled up. So that's one of the things that Belisle's done to solve that problem, is because the eyelets can't get up and over there, right? The other thing too is when there's an animal in there and these are brought in closer, then there's a little bit more strength around the neck of the animal. Belisle's catch or dog is like this. It's one big piece. The Dukes is a little bit different. Both work fine. Other than that, they're pretty much, they do the same job. They get set up the same way. I've made successful kills on both types. The Belisles are a little bit more expensive than the Dukes. Something else I've done is I tried had some beavers that weren't coming to my trap. Part of it was I really couldn't find where they were coming out of their den. They had already left, but I didn't know that at the time. They still had their food plot there. It's a fresh food plot. The landowner watched them build it all summer long. So I was trying different things to entice the beaver that weren't there. So one of the things that I did is made these J-hooks, and then I would put a piece of birch in there and then tie it down with the rabbit wire. That wasn't very effective. So what I've done is I've taken part of your trigger system and I welded a deck screw on. So this year what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on a piece of birch or something that they're going to want to eat. Might take it right out of their food plot, and then that will sit like this, obviously here, and that will be the trigger when they come to try and grab it. Hopefully it'll work. So I'm going to give that a shot, see if it works. I'll put one up for starters, and if it works then I'll put up some more. I've made a couple of these. These ones I've done with speed dip. See how they're brown? I use the brown speed dip. Now they're starting to rust again, so I'll have to do it again. One thing that's not going to show up very well on this is if you read the instructions for speed dip, you can use gasoline, or I believe the wording they use is camp fuel. I used gasoline on this, and what happened is when it dried, you had like a varnish on it, so it made it kind of shiny. So when that stuff is all gone, I won't be using gasoline again. I'll be using the camp fuel or kerosene, whatever they call it on the can. So the varnish makes it quite shiny, and there's not much you can do about it. But if you go to the other fuel, then you don't get the varnish. So these ones I used last year, they haven't been dyed. They work just fine. This one here went in at the same time. These springs didn't rust very much. It's just the way they manufacture them. But I've got a nice surface rust on this, so it should take dye very well. And again, don't wax them. These ones I'll be using the powder trap dye. Turn them black. If anybody wants to see a video on that, just send me a message. I'll make a video of that, but I think there's enough of them on YouTube. But I will do that if somebody wants it. But that's all I've got for today. Thanks for watching. Come back again for more.